And that's what I was concerned about yesterday. I never saw it out of it.
All right, we'll go ahead and ask Conference Crawford there first, make sure they're ready for us to go.
All right, is the Pentagon channel, are you guys ready to go? Anybody out there?
Crawford, Divids, can you hear us?
Roger, I can hear you.
Okay, is everybody else lined up? We have the Pentagon channel on board?
Yeah, the Pentagon channel is here and seeing you just fine.
All right.
Excellent. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay in the press conference this morning, but we're here to gather here this morning to talk about exercise Vigilant Eagle 2010. Today with us, we have several of our American and Canadian partners with NORAD, as well as our British liaison officer. And with us also are our Russian liaison officers, and I'd like to introduce them. And following the press conference, if we need spellings and names and such, we can get that to everyone. This is Colonel Alexander Vasilyev, who is the lead Russian officer, Lieutenant Colonel Sergei Izvikov, Colonel Oleg Matvienko, Lieutenant Colonel Oleg Povk, and with them also was their interpreter who helped us was Lieutenant Ilya Shulinden. This morning we're going to have Colonel Todd Balfe, who's the Deputy Commander of the Alaska NORAD region, provide us with an opening statement, and then we'll open it up to question and answer. Colonel Balfe.
Good morning, everyone. Last night, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, along with the Russian Federated Air Forces, concluded a very important exercise, a milestone exercise, in fact. I was honored to be accompanied on the track of interest aircraft that was simulating a hijacked aircraft with Colonel Alexander Vasilyev from the Russian Federated Air Force, a Canadian officer representing NORAD, and a Russian officer obviously representing the Russian Federated Air Forces, on a track of interest aircraft that was simulating a hijacked aircraft transiting from American airspace through Russian airspace, delaying at a point in the Far East, and then returning 2 days later through Russian airspace back into American airspace. And that was significant for many reasons. It was significant obviously because we had NORAD officers representing the US DoD and Russian officers representing the Russian Federated Air Force on the same aircraft. And of course, during that whole process, the command and control authorities of our two countries, our two sides, were prosecuting this simulated threat to our citizens. This gave us a watershed moment opportunity between NORAD and between the Russian Federated Air Forces to partner together to counter air terrorism. And this was momentous for many reasons. Obviously, one of the primary reasons is this gives us the chance to move our Cold War confrontation towards a period of cooperation, in particular towards countering the air terrorism threat. I think all of us, US, Canadian, and Russian citizens, agree that the air terrorism threat is real and is something we should partner together and work on to deter, if necessary, to defeat. And also I want to add that in conjunction with that, it wasn't just the militaries that were cooperating on this exercise, it was also our interagency partners. For us, it was the TSA on our side, it was the Federal Aviation Administration, and all of our interagency partners that make this whole of government approach to countering air terrorism so important. And without great detail, I'm confident that our Russian counterparts were doing the exact same thing on their side. Obviously, there's a great civilian involvement in how we do business here. Now that the exercise is concluded, it's fairly clear from my perspective, and I'm confident that Colonel Vasilyev, my counterpart, would conclude that it was a huge success, a resounding success. Our command centers on the ground here in the United States and obviously over in Russia, we're doing a great job of passing information, and therefore our military forces, for us DoD forces, and for the Russians their Federated Air Force forces, including fighters, command and control platforms, airborne tankers, were able to intercept, escort, and shadow the track of interest, the simulated hijack aircraft, consistently throughout Russian and American airspace, providing that deterrence and that information that our command authorities need to try and deter and, if necessary, defeat air terrorism. While we'll do a formal debrief later on and we'll do a formal analysis of the exercise, from our initial point of view, a great deal of planning went into this exercise. It was over 2 years of planning to make this come together. The communication challenges were obviously large, but they were not insurmountable. And at first blush, it appears that the exercise was a resounding success. And of course, that would lead perhaps to us working towards future exercises to further strengthen this partnership that's very important for all of our citizens to counter air terrorism. Having concluded my opening statement, I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have, and at the same time, our Russian counterparts will be very happy through translators to answer any questions you may have.
Gentlemen, can you talk about how it benefits each country, each side, NORAD and the Russian Federation.
For us on the NORAD side of the house, which of course is the binational arrangement that fends both Canadians and Americans, having information coming from our partners in Russia gives us plenty of warning time. The warning time is critical for us to know what's going on with international air terrorism so that we can gather more information, so that we can posture our forces to counter that threat. Previously, we may not have had that information. And of course, I don't want to answer for the Russians, but I presume it's the same for them. But I'll turn the microphone over now to my Russian counterpart.
Do you mind repeating the question so that we can...
Yes, in what ways does the exercise benefit the Russian Federation?
Какая польза для Российской Федерации эти учения имеют?
Как сказал полковник Балов, Российской Федерации также очень важно иметь информацию от американской стороны в случае возникновения кризисных ситуаций.
As Colonel Balfe had said, it's very important for the Russian Federation to have just the information of what's going on during a crisis, and from the American side, namely.
Учения показали, что мы можем это делать и что мы можем это делать хорошо.
And of course, the exercise showed that we can do this, and not just do this, but do it well.
Another question for the Russian officers. Could you describe the extent to which your military and civilian were involved in this exercise?
Вы не могли бы описать именно как гражданские и военные организации принимали участие в учениях?
Да, сценарием наших учений было запланировано о том, что самолет при первом проведении этапа учения, первого этапа учения, самолет взлетал из Анкориджа в Мисаву. После взлета условными террористами самолет был захвачен. На самолете был установлен опознавательный признак.
Of course, during the scenario, you know that the aircraft was planned to take off from Anchorage, and then after the takeoff from Anchorage, it was planned to have it simulate a hijacked aircraft, and this was done by having that the signal squawked saying that the aircraft was hijacked.
Гражданские органы управления воздушным движением в Анкоридже на своих экранах обнаружили появление этого признака.
And of course, the civilian agencies here in Anchorage, the air traffic controllers, recognized that signal when it occurred.
Немедленно доложили об этом командованию НАРАД.
And of course, they reported about this to the NORAD command.
Командование НАРАД, используя свои внутренние процедуры,
And using internal procedures, NORAD then went on to communicate.
поставила задачу на подъем самолета Е-3 AWACS.
And they told the aircraft, the E-3 AWACS, to take off.
И самолетов-истребителей F-22
And then, of course, the F-22s, the fighters, took off.
для организации контроля над захваченным судном.
And this was all to organize the control over the hijacked aircraft.